third meeting, online meet programs we have arranged before the next meeting conference of the MFC. And today's topic is role of healthcare providers, helpers or predators. As already mentioned, it is a bit provocative. So somebody calls it as biased. We can't be found fault with. Anyway, we are, as a person who is working in the private sector, I think I can decide by the end of the talk whether I fall into which of the categories, helper or predator. Anyway, I think there is a wide spectrum from helper to provider to predators, and there may not be two watertight compartments with people working in public sector as helpers and those in private sector as predators or whatever maybe. Maybe it can be a mix of both. And today's topic, this speaker is Dr. Amar Jesani, and as many in this group may not be very much aware, is known to many of them, and he may not need a formal introduction, but as custom demands, I would like to say a few words. He is currently the editor of Indian Journal of Medical Ethics, and he is a medical professional who has been actively involved with the social science research, and he was a program coordinator at the Achuman Center for Health Sciences in Trivandrum, and he is one of the founders of the Forum for Medical Ethics Society in India, and currently he is the editor of the Indian Journal of Medical Ethics, and he has been, his key areas of work include public health, human rights, and medical ethics. With these few words, I introduce Dr. Amar Jesani to this gathering. It's over to Dr. Amar.
Okay, thanks a lot for this introduction. What is this? Okay.
Can I interrupt once?
Yeah,
this
please.
Talk is for 45 minutes, and it is followed by discussion for another 45 minutes. That is what we have planned for the day. Okay.
Yeah, I will try to keep within that, but it's less than that, because that is why I didn't prepare any PowerPoint, because when Jagdishan asked me whether I will talk something about the doctors, so I said, yeah, I mean, that was actually my punching bag. You know, doctors were my punching bag in 1980s and 90s. So I thought, well, it will be good to revisit some of the things that we did and learn from. And so I thought I'll make it more experiential and interactive, rather than a kind of a scholarly presentation where we can go into the nuances of various kind of stuff. And I also expect you people to contribute from your own experiences in this. The first thing when I received the point was that the title of what I'm talking about is a healer as well as a healer and predator. This when I looked at it, I said, well, perhaps doctors are both. They are healers as well as predator, rather than they're healer versus predator. I got that in 1980s when I was doing a lot of work in human rights and doing investigation of say torture, custody, deaths, and that kind of stuff. And I found that there are good doctors and bad doctors. The doctors who colluded in protecting police who were, doing the torture, or as you know, the doctoring the autopsy reports and all. And there were doctors who were very aware of human rights issues and trying to fight for ethics at the same time, and helping those who suffered from effects of the torture. So then you find that they are abuser as well as victims, say both of them. Those who try to do something which is very different from convention, they do come under pressure and they get marked out. And so I thought instead of contrasting them, we will have to look at how the healer also, in certain circumstances, either consciously or unconsciously become predator. I think that is a much better way of looking at the role of doctor. So if you are not conscious about what is the real cause of your career, and then you allow it to be flown along with the social forces, then you may end up even unconsciously, in spite of being a very good a person, a part of the gang of the predators. That is what is possible. So that we must keep it in mind when we look at this topic. My experience is in uh, late 70s and 80s as a part of MFC. I joined MFC in 1982 and then became very active at Bombay level in later part of 1980s, around 86, 87, when we created a Bombay group of medical friend circle and started doing a lot of activism there in the field of health. And we noticed, noticed three things from my experience of interacting with the doctor. The first area was, all those people who came out with me and decided to, out of the medical school and decided to stay back in India. And I was trying to look at all my colleagues who stayed back in India and practiced medicine in India. The one was I was one also an example myself. I had a 3 years, bond with the government of Gujarat to work in rural areas after finishing my MBBS. And when I finished it and I went to them and said that, well, I'm available now. I finished my internship. They said there is no job. We are releasing you from your bond. And I was just out. They said there is no job for you. But then I realized that, what do you do as if you want to practice medicine? I come from a family of traders, small traders, a middle class level. And doing trading, what we call in Bombay, dhanda, was a part of our culture. We come from so-called business family, that way, a small business family. And then I realized when I looked at many of my colleagues who had nothing to do with business, who may have come from very intellectual tradition where their parents were, very highly educated. I was the first person educated in my family. So I was, first generation educated and a doctor as well as in any other sense. So I realized when I interacted with them that our system actually trains the doctor not only to become healer, but also to become entrepreneur. Simply because it does not provide you job when you want the job, Even those who want, they want that. From my class, almost 80% of my classmates migrated to US and UK. So and there are still large number of migrating because we do produce doctors for the international market and not for the Indian market. So it's a very, very different issue there. But we had also, I think, a session last Thursday on the medical education. I don't go in, but what is important is to understand that somehow or other in our DNA, the entrepreneurship gets very much woven as a part of our way of doing medical practice, unless you try to consciously break away from it. I try to break away from it by becoming a researcher and not doing the practice ultimately, because I realized that I can't take money from patients. And then I was also not, perhaps, my way of living was such that I just could not I did not like to stay at one place being available to the patient. Well, I like going into different places, learning from them, and also research was the best thing. And social science research was the one that took me forward. But this this observation, I don't know what is your observer, this observation that makes a doctor a part of a market-based capitalist system, just as a force to survive for them, is very, very important, because then I find that when I interact with doctors and at level, they take it for granted that doing this kind of business or entrepreneurship or trading in day-to-day clinical practice, when they are, because most of them are in private practice. More than 90% of the doctors are in private practice in India. And they consider that it to be very, very natural. And when you try to engage with them, I find that it is very difficult to make them understand what you are saying. The other part also I saw is that some of them were more entrepreneurs, and they became owner of small nursing homes, and they started as a small what I would call a production house kind of stuff, a hospital, 10 beds, 15 beds, 20 beds. Many of them in the district and sub-district level, where my own classmates, when I saw them, and they're amassing money, they're creating capital in order to invest in a bigger stuff, or getting kind of a credibility so that they can later on attach their hospital to the larger hospital in the private sector. This is how I saw them going up and up. And I found that those who did not join this race, they and those who joined this race, their living standards were, two extremes. Or those who became even researchers like me, or those who went into academic. And that created, that I saw that there's this stratification that comes about simply because of the objective circumstances is very important to look at. The second area that I experienced was that in the process of doing it, at least in 1980s. After that, I have not done enough work, but I got involved in interacting with the people who felt dissatisfied with the services they were receiving from the doctor. That means patient side. I think it was my involvement with the patient side that made me to go into the ethics. So for me, ethics is putting yourself on the other side of the table in order to understand what is happening in doctor-patient relationship or in the larger health system. And the whole issues of negligence and violations of patients' rights at every level, starting from not knowing that how much it will cost, not getting enough information. From that to what MFC has covered in a big way about the irrational care, unnecessary surgeries, and all. I think all of them together, a number of cases where people suffered injuries and deaths, and they wanted to file cases against the doctor for compensation. And when I started helping them in doing it, getting certain lawyers and others, I found another facet of medical profession. And that was that there were very few doctors who were ready to align with a person who had suffered because of the medical practice. That means those who were, victims of the negligence. Doctors were not ready to even look at the, medical records of theirs or provide a signed opinion about what went wrong during the clinical therapy of that person. Forget about going and appearing in the court of law and giving an expert opinion on the case. It was what I find is that there is such a strong bonds within the profession, and I think that we need to explore. If you are saying that what objectively the role gets played is that even the good doctors, when we are not able to consistently do it, simply because there is a lot of fear of disapproval by the rest of the profession if they help those patients who suffer within the system for whatever reason. Negligence may be there, other kind of unethical practices may be there, and they seek the support of the other doctors to help them out to get justice. And that kind of fraternity within the medical profession is an area that we need to explore and find and think how to break it. Because this power of medicine is like a guild power, which they acquired during 19th century, but it is so strong still. I think perhaps they are bound by the kind of a code of market where they can have conflict with each other, they can have competition with each other. But when their common interest in the private practice is attacked by anybody, they all cooperate with each other. I think this is this I saw happening in a very unconscious way. Not everybody was trying to consciously coordinate it, but you sit with them and say, "Well, I'll give an opinion on orally, or I will even type it out, but I will not sign it, and I will not say that. Don't tell anybody who has given this opinion." So how does the patient ever get a justice if they have any kind of uh, injustice there? So this is a very important area where in relationship to the larger body of the patients, the profession is too united within itself, despite its all hierarchies and problems and conflicts within. It looks at patient as a common enemy rather than a kind of a partner in the of the profession. This is what impression that I got, and that made me very critical of the medical profession, and that's why I remember in 90s I was called Amar, who is the enemy of doctor. People used to in medical profession always describe me like that, or while in the IMA meeting, if I turn up there, they will introduce me like that. This is our enemy who has come here, just for a while. So this power of associations and the profession, I felt very strongly. Oh, sorry. Anyway, so this was the second thing that I experienced during my activism in doing it. And the third was, doctors' role in what I called human rights. I explained to you that doctors' role in torture and other things, these are all larger human rights issues. But how do the doctors actually consciously or unconsciously not use their corporate power or organized power, even for talking about people's right to healthcare, using their power of lobbying and advocacy with the government, which they have a lot of power. And I can give you a lot of examples where they have changed certain rules and regulation and even laws, or diluted laws, by having direct access to the prime ministers and the ministers, and have been privy to their discussion, secret discussion about how to go about and get it done. But none of them will push for ensuring that health system is developed in the manner which can lead to the better access to the healthcare services to the people. Why this? And that is a part of the human rights issue, in addition to the issues related to the torture and police custody death and even death penalty, where they are playing a very regressive role in that. So this three together made me look back, to the history, and I said, well, as a profession, how were we born, and what were the historical processes and what we actually carried out there? And then I realized that if I read late 19th century and late 18th century and 19th century history, that how in England the professions, which was quite divided in different royal societies, physicians, surgeons, apothecaries, and all, they all were brought together by the journal like Lancet in order to create a combined force to create a single profession out of it. And that modern profession, as it was born in the later part of 19th century, and its cohesions within to protect its interests and say that we are independent, we are autonomous, we are self-regulated. Nobody should come and interfere in what we do. And that is our power, has sustained even today at everywhere. Despite inroads made by market, direct to consumer advertising and all kind of stuff that we can talk about. But that power has not reduced even in the best of the political situation that I've seen so far, at least in our country within a democratic capitalist framework. And so uh, it's a it has that monopolizing role that healing is our monopoly power, and regulation or what we do should be done only to the extent that we allow you to do. Otherwise, we will not allow. And that's why most of the regulatory things that have been tried in India have failed. At least in the developed countries, the things are different, where the states have shown power and tried to regulate them. But then the regulations themselves do not produce what is required to be produced. They require more structural changes which are not there. Anyway, but this is a one thing that I learned from history in order to connect my experiences at the ground level in Mumbai. The other thing that I saw from the history was that it is not only just having monopolizing power over the healing, but even within the healthcare system, it has a tendency to have a controlling power. How, I mean, in the title you said that healthcare provider, right? The healer or predator. Now, doctor is not the only healthcare provider. There's so many other healthcare providers too in the system. And I'm not talking about just other type of doctors, Ayurvedic, Unani, and that kind of stuff. But there are nurses, right? There are a lot of other paraprofessionals and all. Nurses, at least now, recognized as a profession in its own right. But what will be their role is shaped by the power of the medical profession. And medical profession may do some transfer of the task to them, but will not give them an equal status within the system. I mean, that also was born from the 19th century when the modern nursing was created. Although modern nursing came in the picture in 1850s and late 1850s, they got recognition as a nursing council only in 1920 in UK. Took such a long time, almost 60 years. And that was because of the resistance of the medical profession, saying that we don't want any competition. The people who take decision about what is the right therapy or what is right diagnosis and therapy, and people who do the caring, this division within the medical system was institutionalized there, and it has remained like that. Pre-nursing days, if you see it, you had some assistants coming here and there, but the doctor was also required to spend a lot of time in doing nursing part, which gradually they gave up. And many other tasks also now are transferred to the nurses. But it is at the behest of or decided by the. So that is within the medical system. There is no equality, and there is a strong hierarchy. And hierarchy is also not just a hierarchy of status, but it is also a hierarchy which is gender-based. You'll find it is highly gender. There is a masculine task and there are feminine tasks. That is how they seem to be coming together. There also you'll find that the social configurations are different. The kind of groups, the caste and other social groups which dominate medicine and those who dominate nursing are very different. And you'll find that continuously getting played out. So this monopolizing of healing and controlling of the thing of the system, where they are the key people, are also very strongly, I think, part of the characterization of the medical profession, and that we need to look at if we want something to be changed there. Since I think I already taken about half an hour, so few more things, and we can have start discussion. I was looking at what kind of different roles that we can conceive of the medical professional. There are two ways. I mean, the way things are existing, we can critique it as I was trying to do it, and what are the strong structural and power-based mechanism that keeps it going. But on the other hand, I was looking at, what about the social doctor? What about people like us who are sitting across the table? People like people in medical friend circle, right? Who are doctors, but doctors with different kind of orientation. They don't want to get sucked into that. They want to consciously, even if they are part of it, they also want to consciously do something different. So some may be part of the same system, but they're trying to do something different. Some have just kept out of the system, created alternatives and worked in it. And MFC has also a strong, tradition of community-based work, establishing community-level projects and that kind of thing. I think we need to do some reflection on there also, that this is a kind of a role that doctors can play. You can, at least for practical purpose, I can just look at it in two ways, because that was also one of the old debate of medical friend circle. Because I am an urbanite. I live in Bombay. I didn't have any desire to go and settle down in rural areas to start a community health project. And when I joined MFC, for a long time, every time we were discussing about community health workers, this is happening in tribal area, this is happening in rural areas, where people are unreached and all. For me, it was urban area, city like Mumbai, cosmopolitan, big metropolitan center, where there's no dearth of healthcare resources or healthcare providers, right? Where you can talk about that, saying that if you have more supply of doctors, there is more consumption of healthcare. And because more supply is there, the prices don't come down. It keep going up and up, because the new and new type of consumptions are created. And new types of technologies are brought in order to keep the prices high. So it's the market operates in healthcare very differently that you and I know about. The doctor is the main person who decides what you should be consuming as a patient. And at the same time, there cannot be any perfect competition. Otherwise, also, but in health, never. Simply because of the structure of the market as it is, and the kind of work that is required. So if you have more doctors, prices don't go down. Some of the doctors getting bankrupt and migrating out of Bombay, you'll find very, very few examples. 10 will go, but 20 will come back, and set up practices there. Only thing is that your requirement of capital may change. So those who have higher capital, they will come. Lower capital will go to the district and sub-district level. So it's a kind of a place where you have to do some activism. And that's how I kept thinking that all those people who talk about going to the rural areas and doing certain stuff, starting various projects. I mean, what kind of change that we want to bring about by doing it? What is that strategy? Is it a kind of a humanitarian strategy, which is to find an alternative way of doing things? But how does it change the society, larger society? I had to do volunteerism, and we have to start NGOs to provide those services, simply because, as a right, people are not getting those kind of services from the state as they should be getting as a fundamental right. They are not getting it. So how a humanitarian work can also have an impact as a human rights work, which can change or which can create a movement for the right to healthcare or universal access is the key question for me. Because otherwise, there will be so many successful community health projects that I have seen since late 1960 till now in India, and highly eulogized. Some of those people who did were highly committed, and I looked at them as a kind of people who I will admire all the time because of their work. And yet, when I look at their impact in creating a movement for the right to health was very, very in India. Movement for the right to health and the universal access started with People's Health Assembly in 2000. Earlier, it was community health and talking about those alternatives. That was the main ethos. So I'm still trying to figure out, that as a social doctor, for me, for somebody like me or those who are in urban areas, do they have to take it up matters in the manner which is more political, obviously political, rather than just humanitarian, where we go and provide an alternative? Do we start like our old saying, Gandhian and Maoist strategy? Go to the rural areas, start the revolution there, encircle the cities, and capture everything. Does Is that the way things going to happen as far as we are concerned? Or the whole establishment is too strong in the urban area, where you cannot have a campaign-based work to help the people and patients who are suffering from malpractices, who are suffering from the business of the medicine in a big way there, because that is the most acute suffering, which is a different kind of suffering from deprivation suffering, in the other parts of the country. So for me, that is another role that I see. I haven't been able to figure it out. There are not enough people in urban areas at the moment. If I find very sensitive doctor in urban area, after some time I say, okay, I'll go and join a community health project somewhere. That at least quietly, nicely, I can do medical work which satisfies me that I'm helping so many people. Right? And so you feel very gratified that yes, I have done it. But the people's movement doesn't happen. And the last point in that is that my reading of the changes of the country in the countries where universal access healthcare services came, I don't find a single example where movement for universal access was led by doctors. Not a single example. All of those movements were led by people's organization, trade unions, people's organization of different kinds. The movements and campaigns and those kind of stuff, ultimately impacting parliament and making them to make a transition to what they call welfare state, where whether it is North America like Canada, whether it is Europe and all, most of the countries, the organized medical profession, the medical associations and all, they all were against those reforms. Look at the Beveridge Committee report and look at the response of the British Medical Association of that. A small organization of Socialist Health Association which supported the entire stuff. But the whole change was led by trade unions and Labour Party. And they made it possible to have a national health system. And today we are going to lose it also, the way things are happening in UK today. You can see that national health system is almost 50 to 75% almost lost. And I don't know the new Labour, when it comes to power, it will be like old new Labour and the Labour of that time, and it will further erode it. So it's a very important area that if all those of us who are interested in changing health system, will we be able to change it only through the actions within the medical profession, or or different kind of professions within medicine or health system. Or we will have to align and put it on the agenda of people's organization, political parties, and see that it is carried as a national level campaign, which gets supports from the larger masses in order to change it. So I am I established Forum for Medical Ethics Society. I'm also editor of Indian Journal of Medical Ethics, and we started with an idea that will reform the medical profession, and do something there. That was in 92, 93, 31 years back. We started the Indian Journal of Medical Ethics in 1993, but the work started a few years before that. And now this journal has evolved not as just a medical ethics journal, but it's a broader journal, a multidisciplinary journal. And you'll find that we have a social scientists, we have lawyers, we have philosophers, we have NGO people, activists, all of them part of our editorial board and contributing. It's more of a journal of a broader bioethics rather than, and ethics I define as an other side of the coin of the human rights. So one side is human rights, the other side is ethics. The ethics is defined by the respect to the human rights by the people who are in a better position. So I see that transformation in the journal as it is happening. It is no longer trying to campaign just within the medical profession, but on a larger platform. And I think that is also, I would like to propose and have a discussion on that the social doctor, as it was looked by Virchow, Rudolf Virchow, long back in mid 19th century, who said that will not be just doing medical practice, but will also trying to work for the social change. And that social change is not just being done. I mean, even social change within the healthcare system will not be brought about by the people within the healthcare system because they are too ossified in the kind of structure that is existing there. It will require the movement of the people who say that, well, we want a different kind of health system. And I think that is where we can contribute. Perhaps our voice may be heard better than the voices of traditional politicians and other people. But perhaps that may be the way of looking at our role. Whether you are in an urban area like me, where we are not involved directly in humanitarian work, where you can take up campaign. But even if you are involved in community health work in rural areas, there is a need to link up humanitarian work or community health work, providing provision of service work with the campaign and demand for the universal access to the healthcare services. I think that is where perhaps the role of the social doctor is very important. And they have to align with the different kind of organizations who may not be, who are mainly from the people in order to make it happen. So that is the broader role that I would like to propose here. And also for the MFC to align with the forces from other sectors of the society, which have some interest and reason to agitate for getting universal access to healthcare. So that is what my position. I just stop here. We still have, I think, 45 minutes left for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amar. It was you have succeeded to some extent in justifying the caption. Thank you. Okay, and this is open for discussion, and there are participants can be please they are invited to make their comments.
How do you want to do? People raise their hands and then you ask them to speak, or
Okay.
There is a chat box. I don't know what. How do you want to do?
Yeah, already there are already two chats. There's mainly comments. There is one question. What's your comment on the doctors' lobby insisting that there should be members in the grievance redressal committee or appellate body in Rajasthan under the Right to Health Act? Isn't it muffling the voice of the patient in their quest for justice?
Oh, this is this is that in the chat box. This is a question about doctors' lobby
Yeah, the
insisting
second
that they should be a member of the grievance redressal committee. Well, I think at the moment, the way things are, to keep the people against whom the grievance is going to be a problem. But if it is a state level committee and having a representation of that, well, if you have multi-sectoral committee, but you must see that these committees have a majority of the people who are from the lay audience, lay people, coming from people themselves and not from the medical profession. Because medical profession is used to demanding that medical council, when they receive complaint, they have a greater say in doing it. And most of the time, medical councils don't run well on the issue of ethics complaint, simply because doctors are the ones who investigate the complaint. They listen to the complainants and the other side, and they act as a judges. So they are the investigator, and they are also advocate, and they are also the judges. So it's a kind of a system that is existing, and they are quite used to it, and they don't want to give their power to anybody else. Now, we can just have a sexual harassment and workplace committee. So having a man there in the committee as a one of the person may not be big issue, provided the committee is really dominated by the women who are trained in handling those things. So at what level and how they are talking about is important. So far as possible, initially, in order to generate confidence among the people to make the complaint, I think it is better to keep them out to begin. And later on, if there is a better relationship, we can have some representation of the doctors, but not from the lobby itself, but the doctor who is non-aligned with the lobby. That will be much better.
There are a couple of people who raised their hands.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Anish and Shruti. And then there are a few more comments and questions in the chat box also.
There is a
Good evening, sir.
Come on, Shruti.
Yes, sir.
Go
So that's a wonderful presentation that I heard. So thank you so much for that. So I have one question. That is not question. I have to know what is your opinion regarding why there is increasing the violence at the hospital against the healthcare workers. What is your opinion about that? Why in the recent last 1 year there is increasing the violence against the healthcare workers in all aspects. So what is your opinion about that?
Well, I think this situation is well known. We also published few articles and editorials on the subject in the Indian Journal of Medical Ethics. The one interesting piece that we published was from China, and in China, the violence against medical professionals and the healthcare services is the highest in the world, and it is quite a recurrent phenomenon there. So you can imagine, this was the country which had a universal access to healthcare services, and then it makes transition to the market-based system. And there is a lot of dissatisfaction of the people to the health services there. And they're not only, a spontaneous violence they experience. They also experience what is called systematically designed violence, where there are gangs of the people who are like, what you call Robin Hoods. The gangs of the people whom you can contract to go and attack the doctors and the health services. So it's a very, very interesting phenomenon that you will find there. Now, how did it happen is very important. That what kind of trajectory of our health system is. which is making people so impatient with the medical professions and the service. I think that is a larger social question. There are papers and papers which show that why it is happening. Is it related to non-communication of the right kind of stuff to them? The responsibility of communicating bad news is given to the person who is the least trained to do it, rather than the person who is who is senior and who should have done it. There's a lot of lack of transparency in the way patients are treated there, and that leading to that. In certain situations, I think particularly in the public sector and to partly in NGO and the private sector, there's also issue of I would say discrimination of the patient on the basis of the caste and religion, which is very, very high. I have seen it with my own eyes. And if I'm a Muslim, if I go to the public system and if I'm wearing the clothes which identifies with me as a Muslim or my name identifies me as a Muslim, I find that the attitude of the hospital staff and even doctors is very, very different. And that leads to accumulation of anger. So there are many, many multifactorial things, So it is increasing simply because people's access to healthcare services is becoming difficult. You will find that the strengthening of the public health sector has not taken place, and that's how a lot of violence you observe there. And in the private system, there is no transparency. You don't come to know what you will have to pay up. You don't know why your patient who you thought was dead was still in the ICU, and why not getting discharged. All kind of stuff that you'll find become causative factor and leads to, and that shows that overall the trust in medical system and the medical profession on the part of people is declining. When people trust you, they have a lot of patience with you. Even when you are late, you find that certain things are missing, they will tolerate. But the trust level goes down, and they say that these people are there to exploit me, or they are treating me like with indignity. Then you'll find that they react very sharply with violence. So I think those are multiple factors that you have to take into consideration.
Anish and
Thank you, sir.
Vasudevan and Mujib, 3 hands up, and then quite a few comments and questions in the chat box also. But let's take like Anish has been raising his hand for a long time.
You don't have to ask question. You can also make your point, and I
Yeah, some of them are comments in the chat box.
I will make a space for your viewpoint. I don't have to, I don't have to have my viewpoint everywhere. You see, yeah.
Okay. Maybe Anish.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Actually, I want to hear his. Anyway, I'm thankful for your nice presentation. So I want to hear your take on one very important point that I think is very important. Doctors are facilitating the treatment cost. One thing is regarding the generic medicines. So now the good proportion of healthcare is coming out of the cost of medicine. But whenever government is taking a stand to support generic medicines, the Doctors Association will jump into the scene and they will say that, okay, it will just reduce the quality of healthcare and all. The second one is regarding the cost of investigation. Now we have got the medical establishment bills, and wherever you are going to have a discussion on medical establishment bill and standardization of cost or something, again they will come and use the word quality and they will defend that, okay. And third one is human resource. It is very difficult to have a doctor because doctor is costly. So even the Western world is turning to nurse practitioners, but here the doctors communities are very much resistant to having nurse practitioners in the field. If the country or the government is going to have maybe another course to substitute MBBS, maybe a 3-year course or 2-year course, again the doctor community will tell that it will reduce the quality of healthcare. But if you look at the medical community as such, they are not following any protocols. They are not updating their knowledge. And these things, I think, are very important, that the doctors and their official groups are resisting any attempt to reduce the healthcare cost in this country. So that is something I want to hear from you on your comment on these things.
But this is what I said, that it's the whole issue of the medical power, and that power they are exercising in order to defend the turf. There's a lot of issue of relationship between the medical profession and the pharmaceutical company. I'm sure you know about it. And actually, it is a conflict of interest to have that the kind of relationship that is existing. But in the neoliberal economy as we live in, there are strong voices which say that, well, it is not a conflict of interest, it is a confluence of interest. Doctors have interest in treating people, and pharmaceutical companies also have interest in treating people. So they should go hand in hand. They should not have distance between them. And this is you'll observe even in the developed countries, which is happening. So in India, it is highly actually institutionalized to have a relationship. We still don't have any data, but when I talk to doctors and try to find out where do they invest their excess money that they earn, the savings of their, and the stock market, but all the real estate and all is one side, but the stock market, and I try to find out, and I see that they have actually no moral problem in investing in pharmaceutical company, because that is where they get a lot of good returns from the company. So there is a big kind nexus that has happened, and somehow or other we Indians believe that keeping your leg in both sides is the best way to sail, rather than look at the conflict between those profit making pharma companies and this. So that's how you will find that they don't like the generic. They will call it substandard. And if you do good studies, you will find that even the brand name drugs are also having substandard. Many of those brand name drugs are made from a contract given to the generic making drug. There again, issue is of that of trust, because our regulators are so weak and they are captured by the regulated, that is pharma companies, that they are not able to impose the quality control. That is definitely there. There are problems with the quality, and there are issues keep coming up. There is a generic required in order to have better access, but then we also need to ensure that there is a better quality. If both of them are done, then one can fight quite better. But at the moment, the profession is very much aligned to them, and they don't have any kind of evidence to show that the generic medicine should not be used. Most of the developed countries use a huge amount of generic medicine from India, South Africa, Brazil, and Thailand and other places. And I think their entire welfare system will collapse if generic drugs from the third world countries are not exported there. It is that kind of situation. Medicaid, all of them, you'll find generic drug is the supreme. But that is where they ensure that the quality of generic drug is also kept at a higher level. Anyway, but this is a problem, and same problem is about having minimum standards in the clinical establishment, that is hospitals, nursing homes, laboratories, and all. We started a campaign on that in mid-1990s in Bombay as a medical friend circle. We filed a public interest litigation to bring some kind of minimum standards for the hospitals in Bombay city. And then, despite 10 years work and public interest litigation, we didn't succeed. It's still going on. You'll find the same thing is that Maharashtra hasn't come out with the standards and all. And there's a big opposition from the doctor. IMA is the big factor, and consultants associations also. They also don't like to have protocols and common protocols for treatment and that kind of thing. So it's the Indian quality of medical care, even the best of the private hospitals need to be studied, but that we don't have access and there are no people, they would study something different. But I don't know how many prescription audits of hospitals in public, private, and NGO sectors been carried out in India. Hardly, So this is the major problem, because we think that this is a business and business can go on. I don't know what to do about this. You have to keep fighting with the profession. And when you fight against the profession, you will be called anti-doctor, you see, or anti-science. That is what you will have to live with. Yes. Any other? That is only I can answer. There's nothing more than that. Only, reinforce what you are saying. Yeah.
Three more people with their hands up, and quite a few comments and discussions happening in the chat also. But maybe Vasudevan and Mujib and Ahana in that order.
Okay. I'll not respond to everyone. I'll just note down the points and then respond to something where I need to respond. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
You are a very nice talk. Enjoyed it very well. But I think there is a problem of the present generation and old generation is there. Now you have used the term like health providers. See, which doctor is a health provider? Who has to provide health? What is the definition of health? We as a doctor, we have been trained to treat disease. Disease-free stage is not a healthy stage. Health has to come from various other sources. Why a patient becomes unhealthy? So basically, doctors cannot be health providers. It has to be come from a wider area, maybe from social and preventive medicine side, they can talk about that. That's mostly it is a decision which has to be administrative decision, and so many things has to come from there. So we are all treating patients. We are only treating particular disease. And even then, treating a patient is not as easy as anything like when you have a problem in a car tire is burst, you replace the tire. So that is not the way we treat a patient. If a patient, while during anesthesia, his pulse is coming down, we give some medicine to improve the pulse. So if the heart is not responding to that medicine, what will we do? So there is a part from the patient side also. So everything you cannot judge it, because there is a living action in between, biology there in between. It is not like a mechanical way of managing things. So somebody was saying there's a doctor. So doctor must be there in all the other these things to know the intricacies of treatment. Now, suppose a fellow is walking across a road, I apply brake, the vehicle is not stopping there. The particular brake, it must stop there if it hits. How the same way accident happens. And the doctors cannot be taken the other way around, beating around. You won't beat the other driver there. And as such, what I am saying is our concept of health should not be on the doctors. The next thing is doctors. As you said, good doctors and bad doctors. There are good people and bad people in the society. Doctors are also part of the society. So they also will have. We have good politicians and bad politicians. We have good teachers and bad teachers. So that you cannot, because that's a cross-section of the society. Only at an individual level, we can probably go that way. Then the other thing was, you are talking about ethics. Where is medical ethics now? So now we have only a corporate ethics, a corporate hospital. So the ethics of corporate hospital. And in a government sector, the ethics is entirely different. Can a doctor working in a bigger hospital decide about the medical ethics? And that has to be come from the government side. And there is no control. And nowadays, in a private hospital, suppose I am working in the hospital, I am getting a salary of whatever may be, I am paying about 30% tax to the government. And this 30% I am getting from the patient. and paying it. Suppose this patient goes to government hospital is a loss. It's a financial loss from the government side. They won't make any profit. All the private hospitals give about nearly 40 to 50% profit to the government. Who is the real predator? Who is making without doing any money? I am working at night, but who makes money? And regarding the electricity bill, all the hospitals are paying commercial rate. A hotel whereas giving only industrial rate. So the government itself is considering it as a business. So then where is ethics here? It's an ethics of business. As you said, it's only business. So there must be a control on these things, which is not happening. And no one wants that. So that is the same way like politicians also. And somebody was talking about generic, Anish was talking about generic medicines. I myself tried generic medicines for an infection. I found it is absolutely of no use. So I changed to a reliable medicine. It gave me the result. So why can't the government stop all other brands? Keep only generic medicine available. Every doctor will write only that. Where do we need a commercial brand? Stop it. Give only generic. Do our government has a power for that? Because all these people are being fed by the pharma company. Even the ministers and all, drug controllers, they're all fed by the pharma company. No one has courage to do that. And still we talk about all these ethics. And our NMC itself making a lot of money to give a medical college. And you know what happened to the NEET exam now. So it's a overall, generally, there is no ethics anyway. Yeah, it's only a comment, sir.
Yeah, anybody else? I mean, should I take up something from the chat? And then we go
Hello,
to
sir.
Okay.
Sir, I have a query.
Please go
So
ahead.
now, myself, Dr. Hannah. So now the NMC has introduced EdCom to the medical students, right, in medical education. So my query is, can it bring any change in future doctors, mainly to the ethical aspects? Does it bring any change, sir?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Great.
So I have a
Yeah, bolo, Mujibur Rahman. Yeah.
yeah. Sir, I enjoyed your talk, but I disagree a lot. I think we doctors are very minor players in this healthcare industry in this country. It is mainly the corporate sector, the pharmaceutical industry, the politicians. As such, doctors has a very, very minor role, whether it's in the private hospital or in the government sector. And as such, you were mentioning about the universal healthcare access. How are the doctors opposing it, or why are the doctors the primary opponents of healthcare access, or is it the lack of willpower of our governments and politicians? I think doctors, in my personal experience, majority of doctors, vast majority of doctors, have a mind to treat the patients at the best way possible. They don't want to hurt their patient. I can never call majority of the predators, but it might be due to the role of a higher power which they are not under control, like the corporate industries or other pharmaceutical industries. And as said, when we talk about the generic medicines, since we don't have something like any regulatory bodies here to control the quality of medicines, like in US or UK, where any shed can produce for medicines, how can we assure the quality of medicines when we prescribe that? What is it that also the problem with the government? That's some comments and questions, sir.
Okay, Jagdishan, can I just respond quickly to a few things and then I can come back to you?
Sure, Amar.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we start from the what Dr. Mujib said, and yeah, this is an issue that my point was slightly different. Historically, doctors have opposed the universal access system whenever they tried, the politician, a highly motivated, good politician, try to implement it. But at the same time, my major point is that should we as doctors be advocating for it? Do you think that by having a universal access system, our ethical issues will be much less? You know, the ethics was born in USA because it has a private system, while Europe had restructured its system to such an extent that their understanding of ethics was very, very different from the American understanding in 1960s and 70s. So this thing is largely, mainly a system change. As you said, that there are many, many other things also needs to be done about quality of not just medicine, but also the way we provide medical care and all. So it's a larger system issue, and where should doctors be taking, lead in it? But why aren't they taking lead? Do they think that their privilege will be lost if they take lead? We will find that out of more than 1 million doctors, you may have 10% doctors who are the biggest earners in the country. And the 90% you will find is stratified into middle level and lower level earning. But those 10% will actually lead most of our association. And then they have a huge control over it. They have a good network, and the big hospitals, corporates, and all, as well as in a context in pharmacy. It's a very big, larger issue of the system change in healthcare. Ahana has talked about future doctor. Yes, we can. I mean, that's what I do. I was a researcher, and from researcher I became a teacher, simply because I thought that at least few people will hear me and may take it up and for the future agitation and building campaign. But at the same time, you have to look at the larger picture in the medical education. We are producing more than 1 lakh doctors. From where are they being produced? What kind of system is coming into being? Today, even if I want to study in government hospital, government medical college, I need a very good amount of money. If I'm poor, I can't, unless I get fellowship. In my time, I used to pay 50 rupees per year as my tuition fee in medical college. That was from 1973 to 1978 when I was an undergrad medical student. My hostel used to cost me another 50 rupees per year. That was what was the rent of my hostel room I used to pay. Today, you find that most of our doctors, when they come out, they're highly indebted if they're from the low socio-economic strata. So we'll have to look at the largest picture, that what kind of medical education system we are creating. We may motivate few people to get out of the system and fight against the system, but the larger system is also very, very important to look at. So yes, we have to do both. We have to sensitize as many as young people as possible, and at the same time, they should be able to create a voice against the way medical education is structured now. Dr. Anthony has made a very good point in the chat box. And he has said that he looks at the NHS and said that the way the consultation system is organized there between general practitioners and consultants, there's no cut practice there. The cut practice is the biggest thing in our country. Cut practice, we call fee sharing practices, whatever, right? We can say that the kind of commission taking, which is completely, legitimized in day-to-day practice of medicine in India. And should we be raising it? Yes, absolutely. I think there is a good group of doctors, Samira Nandi and Sanjay Nagral and all. They have taken up a campaign against corruption in medical practice. I think it's a big campaign that is going on. I think we all should be joining it and be part of it, simply because that is what is required. Even if we are not able to go for a big system change, the current system where there is a massive amount of corruption, we need to fight. If we fight, we also make people conscious about what is happening in the medical profession. And that will also prompt people to question the profession and say that, how are you organizing this kind of, a corrupt business system? So business ethics are violated. It's not Even if ideal ethics, if you see in business, as they are codified in many of the books, you'll find that they are violated on a day-to-day basis. And that is a very important area. You have pharmaceutical company in Gujarat running medical college. Government of Gujarat handed over a medical college to the pharmaceutical company 5 years back. So, think that should be kept separately, and we want to avoid this kind of corruption. It is actually made very much legitimate, and that is where we need to raise voice and try to fight it. Dr. Ajay Nair is also here, and he has raised issues like ethics. Can ethics be enforced through regulation? Yes. Of course, you have to try to have regulation and keep fighting so that those who are grossly violating ethics, they get penalized under the regulation. But just regulation is not sufficient, because most of the regulatory system, sooner or later, loses its streams and gets captured by the people who are regulated under them. And that is why it is very, very difficult. You have to change the business model of the medicine, the way medicine is organized. Then and then you can grossly bring down the unethical practices there. I think the most important unethical practice for anybody who is practicing in the market is that you are discriminating people on the basis of their capacity to pay. We all take pledge saying that, well, I will not discriminate you on caste issue, community, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation. But all of us implicitly accept that, yes, we can, without any kind of ethical problem, we can discriminate people on their capacity to pay. Right? Accordingly, they have to decide. So this is a larger issue which can be taken care of with other ethical problems if there is a effort to make certain structural changes, as they were attempted after Second World War in different countries. How far will succeed, to what extent, what kind of model will emerge, will depend upon what are the forces, political forces there. We would like to have a NHS kind of system, but different states of India may have a different kind of system, because each one has at a different level of development, and things may happen in each state differently. I have no idea how it will play out, but there is a hope, simply because these issues are now on the table for the doctors who are socially conscious to take them up. Anyway, Dr. Krishna Kumar is saying that not just social doctors, but socially conscious doctors. Yes, socially conscious is good to be. And I can give a good lecture as I'm doing. But then how do we go beyond it? That is also very important. Many times people say the MFC is a good talk show. Go there, people really fight with each other and have a sharp discussion. But what after that? Yes, individually, many of us, I think that is good part of MFC too, is that they are active and they are doing something or other. So I think while being socially conscious, we also need to take it forward in our action somewhere so that we contribute in the larger movement. Anyway, Jagdishan, you want to go ahead? Then I'll take Risha's thing.
Yeah, I think the point is, I shall try to bring it in short time. The thing is that the relationship of the medical profession with the state, or the state governments in power at different levels. And so, though you mentioned about it in a lighter voice, I think that aspect is very critical. Since even a doctor who is working in a government sector and private sector, the things are different. And even within our country, also in different states, the scenario is different. There are many states in which private practice is allowed for the medical college doctors and government doctors. In many places, even the government doctor is permitted to work in a private hospital. So these different scenarios. So whatever we have discussed, the type of medical practice, the type of medical persons, its relationship with the existing state power or the governmental systems existing in the country or in different states. That is very significant in deciding the overall scenario, I feel like. Even if we examine the COVID scenario, the type of the right to patient care which was available in different part of the country was different. That is very much dependent upon the governments in power, the systems in place, and also regarding or even in the now the scenario is not just the private versus the government. As you rightly pointed out, there are corporate hospital and corporatization even extending up to the village level. That way it is being expanded. And so how to bringing in some form of state control for the sake of the people, for the sake of the type of social doctors, as you mentioned. As a social doctor cannot be just formed at the individual level. He can be formed as part of the, maybe as part of the system, if that type of facility is there to work with, or only that way it can happen, or by organizationally coming together, and also that can facilitate. So basically my question is that what is the point which we were discussing, and its relationship with the state or the governmental power or the dominant power relation in the society?
Well, Jagdishan, I think situation is different in different states, okay? And as I said, that there are variations in across Indian states are quite significant. But there are few points from what you were talking about. My experience, and I'm sure everybody, or most of you know about, that in 1960s and 70s, I found that there used to be good associations of government doctors, and they were very, very active. I think in Kerala, their associations work continued the government doctors in 80s and 90s too. But at least in Western region where I have experience, I saw that the doctors who were working in the public system, they were very active, and they used to voice their stuff, and they were quite respectable because private sector was not so strong in the tertiary care at that time, while the tertiary care in the government was a kind of the torchbearer of the tertiary care then. And I also found that in a medical association like Indian Medical Association, we're more open and better managed because many of these government doctors were in the leadership there. Now, I'm not going to idealize the government doctor, because there is a issue here, is that is the professional autonomy of the doctor or the clinical autonomy of the doctor preserved better in the government system or the private system? And you'll find that as the political interference in the government system increase, the most of the doctors succumb to the political pressure. And they became some kind of a handle of for the government to use them for their various kind of activities, and that gave them really bad name ultimately, and then corruption stepped in along with it. So issue is how do you ensure that in different setting, these doctors can be motivated and sensitized. I don't know how you will be able to do it, but this is a area that you can think about. As far as corporate hospitals are concerned, I think their corporate hospitals are really real predators. There is no doubt about it. The doctors are actually more or less becoming agent of those predators. And they get good money as well as good environment to practice, and that is where I would connect with the one of the comment which is there in the in chat box, saying that practicing ethically. I know many doctors who said that they were not able to practice ethically when they're in government setting, but when they joined as a consultant in the corporate setting, they had a better professional satisfaction than they were having here.
That's it.
Badly organized hospital setting.
Yeah.
You have very little time to give to your patient. You are, while in the corporate setting, the number of patients are very controlled within your thing, and you get paid well. Your status goes up, economic status as well as everything as a professional status. And they've felt that they are better satisfied than working in the government, where they are highly crowded, not just crowded. Crowd is not a problem, but unmanaged crowd. The management system is so badly there that you can't differentiate between people coming and barging into the ward or the OPD and the actual patient sitting there, right? And so, and a very little investment from the government in order to improve the overall situation. And this is across the board. Even in the best of the situation, it seems to be like that. So this is a area that we need to focus, and that is one of the reasons why politically, when we talk about public hospital or public system-based universal access system, we find it difficult to get people's support. While when the politician in the election speeches, they say that, well, I'll provide you from government and insurance that you can go in the private hospital and get operated, then people listen to it better than when we say that, well, we'll have a better public hospital there. I think that is where big battle is there in order to create some kind of good role models of the public hospital, which can be shown and then can be replicated in different parts of the country. So yes, it's a it's a very challenging task. Risha has also raised the same issue and said that doctors who do work in community health, or those who do humanitarian work, NGO, charitable work and all, they are also doing political work. Yes, they are. But my my study of the NGOs who are working in different settings like this is that they have not created a situation, even community health NGOs in the rural areas, they have not created a situation which has led to the private doctors leaving the area simply because this highly committed people have provided healthcare to the masses of the people. What you find is that there is no campaign along with doing good charitable work or philanthropic work, which is based on the human rights in order to provide assistance to people who might have suffered in the hands of the private or public system, and also to campaign for better improvement of the system there. So yes, objectively, everybody who is getting out of the system and trying to do something very ethically, or within the system trying to do something ethically, is definitely a political statement, implicitly a political statement. But explicitly, if you want to build a movement and support and make larger changes, then it has to come out and in the political action by mobilizing the people along with us, which is a very I would say difficult task to do it, and that's how we need a horizontal connection with the activist group and the NGOs who may not be doing charitable work, but who are taking up human rights issues of the people. Anybody else? I think I have 2-3 things. Dr. Iqbal has also put up a twice. Dr. Arun Krishna. How do you think to reclaim the idea of social doctor in this time of privatization and fragmentation? I don't know. I still. You can see that it's an utopia. Yeah.
Amar, can I?
Yeah. Suresh, you want to respond to it?
Yeah. Just another more pessimistic sort of. Yeah, see, when you look at the comments, fairly good number of comments, people were referring to bigger and more powerful forces at play, rather than blaming the doctors. You see all this purpose, and you might have come across literature which suggests that the concept of equality and equity within the capitalist system, it doesn't work at all. Even the so-called socialized medicine, when they were talking about Canada and UK, and then it doesn't happen. So do you think that, all this is sort of, whatever you do is cosmetic? you're looking at the superficial structure and ignoring the forces underway, and then strive hard to correct it a little bit cosmetically. Is it all a waste? Is it futile? Because they say the capital itself is the major social determinant of illness.
No, I would say, I mean, if you look at the systems where the universal access system, they have their drawbacks, and equity is a major issue of equity, discrimination there. I mean, I started looking at NHS with critical eyes when first time I read in late 70s, early 80s, I think early 80s, the Black Report, which talked about how the same kind of inequities which are there in the societies are reflected within NHS, and they had to, make certain efforts to reorganize it. The feminist movement, realized that even in the public system, which is universal access system, it was very, very misogynistic, which is not providing equal voice to the women, and they had to fight, and they said that, well, our bodies, ourselves, they separated out, and they made a big critique of the welfare system. Same thing is about racism, within the public. As I was telling you, that in India also, if you ask a minority, a Muslim, where would you like to go? To the government hospital or the private? You say, if I have money, I'll go to private. Why? Doesn't get treated well. Dalit will also tell you similar kind of stuff. So, just getting universal access is not sufficient to meet. I mean, I remember when women's movement started in India in late 1970s and early 80s, the typical left response, the radical response was that we worked for socialist revolution. When socialism comes, women will become equal. They know they don't become equal. That has to be done as a part of the movement that you start. So equity should be part of the campaign that we start for the universal access. If it is integrated, we'll have less problems. That doesn't mean that problems will not be there. How can you build a system which will never have a problem? It can't. In our family also, we try to look at our family. You can't say that everything is stable. There are a lot of dynamics within it. And that is what makes life. That is, I think, I believe that kind of life is much better. You should have a system where continuously there are challenges so that we keep doing much better and better. But those challenges should be in order to have a more positive and constructive value, and responding to the people's need rather than the way it is. So that is what it is. Idealism, yes. For us, it is utopia. It is. But then, if you don't fight for something, then what do? You become part of the system, part of the exploitation that others are doing, and you may join hands with them. I don't know how that can make us satisfied at all, and we get a good night's sleep. I don't get. Yeah, so it's a bit depressing, but that doesn't mean that we should get depressed. I think Dr. Iqbal said that there are a large number of change agents standing with the people within the medical profession compared to any other profession. Well, I don't know. Don't do comparison. I find a lot of lawyers who are doing much better work than doctors as far as human rights campaigning is concerned. But there are not enough doctors still standing up when there are people's movement. I don't see doctors standing up because all these violations in the current political dispensation. This you see, the people who suffer, they all go to the medical system sooner or later. Even people who get lynched and they are being or the people who get all those powerful money drunk people who are causing accidents and all, they all go to the medical system. There are very few still doctors who are standing up and fighting. But I find the lawyers have shown more political awareness, and not because my daughter is a lawyer and working on human rights, but I have also practiced as a lawyer for some time when I was a trade union in early 1980s. and fighting labor cases. And I found that they also do lot of work which doctors are not able to do. Anyway, doctors do a lot of charitable work, humanitarian work, see that people who are needed are provided. But standing up for human rights is a different question. Anyway, Michael Galvin, such an insult. Okay. Okay, that's about UK. He's from UK, Galvin. Geeta Govindraj, what is your opinion on the feminization of healthcare provider workforce? This is happening among the doctors and other healthcare providers. The issue of gender is very, very big in health system. I have talked about it. I have written on that subject in the past. But as I was telling you while talking about the history, that the medical work is masculine and the nursing work is feminine. So you'll find that sexual division at that level is there. Caring is supposed to be under the control of people who cure it, And so the nurses are always under control of them. And once upon a time, doctors were men. But even today, when there are more number of women doctors, the masculine ethos of the medicine continues and they dominate the nursing. And there is no parity between nursing and the doctor at either at the conceptual level or at the ground level. So it's an issue that we need to look at. And within medicine, even having large number of women does not mean that they are actually having representation at the top level. The kind of specialization that they go into or super specialization they can do, there are a lot of gender issues there. And you'll find that any discipline of medicine that is having a strong market element, where you can make big money, it still gets dominated by the man. So it's a things are changing, but that doesn't mean that the gender dynamics and the power dynamics among the genders is not playing out. And when you look at the gender, which is the third gender, the non-binary gender, their space is very, very narrow. Medicine is very, very conservative as far as the non-binary genders are concerned, not opening up. And there's a lot of prejudices and those kind of things there. So yes, feminization issues and the gender dynamics within the healthcare are the ones we need to look at and take into our consideration. We are doing same way is a what kind of caste configuration is there? What proportion of doctors are say from minorities like Muslims? You may have a much better representation of Christians, but you will not have that good representation of the Muslims. In 2002, when MFC did investigation of Gujarat riots, the carnage, the Gujarat carnage, the report they came out with, they found that there were only 1 or 2% of all the doctors in Gujarat are Muslims. And so the Muslim community had a lot of problem during the conflict time to avail of the healthcare services. There were not enough number of Muslim doctors available, while the Hindu doctors were not ready to provide services at that time. So these are the issues like feminization is also issue of representation of various kind of people there. Anyway, Anthony, you want to say something more?
I just because paucity of time,
your voice.
I just want to repeat and reinforce. Or if we don't want to become predators, we have to do something ourselves, and that is doable. Is and self-enforced prescription audit every year or 6 monthly in every hospital. Follow the standard treatment guidelines and rational therapy, and follow antibiotic guidelines based on culture and sensitivity pattern. Do a mortality analysis without any lapses every month, whether it's surgical, obstetrics, gynecology, or whichever department it is. Do a frank mortality analysis within the walls and professional groups. These are things which will make improve our transparency and all fiduciary transactions. That is hospital billing. Absolutely transparent, and that is one thing. And strong demand for quality testing. And even if the government doesn't do, even hospital pharmacies and their doctors committee can send samples for blind samples for quality testing. So you yourself can ban bannable companies, and such blacklist should be made fully public, even give it to the media, so that those pharmaceutical companies never ever venture to do. This is some way to regain the trust on doctors. They are the healers, not predators and exploiters. That's right.
Thank you. I think there is one comment, very important comment, and I thought I must take it up. It is GIPH Trivandrum. I don't know who they are, but they have made a very good comment. They have said that the way the ethics are practiced today, they actually justifies and what you call facilitates the exploitative system as it is existing. That is to certain extent too. I don't disagree with you. You can also talk about the ethics as they are formally and institutionally taken up in, say, USA also. They actually facilitate the things which are there. I mean, ethics came up in the US system in a big way simply because they wanted to avoid conflict between profession or the health system and the people, And the job of the ethicist was to provide some kind of a facilitation and balance, that you give something to them and take something from them, kind of stuff, so that the decisions which are made, they seem to be made by a collection of stakeholders who have deliberated it and they have come out together. So it is true. I mean, the clinical ethics committee were the first structures to emerge in USA, and these clinical ethics committees were not at the forefront ever in fighting against racism within the U.S. Medical system. They were the people who were from outside. If you look at Indian experience, and I have written and spoken on that subject, that after 2005, when the clinical trials were liberalized in India, and the Institutional Ethics Committee became very, what I would call, part of all the institutions doing research. When a big uproar came up among the people to have more regulation and control over the clinical trial, it did not come from the ethics committee members. It came from the people from outside, who were activists outside. Even people like me who used to sit in ethics committee, but my affiliation was with the outside people who were healthcare activists, who took it up. And ultimately in 2013, the entire thing was made more stringent there in India, and that's how the clinical trial regulations evolved in India. So I agree completely that unless you are a disruptor within the traditional ethics system, unless you try to push it, even the good idea can be get co-opted into the system. You see, so I mean, which hospital would not like to announce all the time saying that we are doing ethical healthcare, right? They may not be doing anything otherwise, as far as the people are concerned, and exploitation may be continuing there. So that is also, I believe, responsibility of the people who are in the field of ethics. Principalism is a framework, is only one framework. And for me, as I said, that ethics are very strongly related to the human rights. And that is the major principle which shape the ethics. So what is my right is the ethical obligation of the people who have to provide me services. So this is the way I see ethics and human rights combined. Anyway, but this is a very important point that you have made, and I thought I must clarify it. And it's so Matthew George has said, I think your point is like anybody else. We say that why are you only telling that doctors should be becoming social doctors? Even social scientists should become social scientists, or the social lawyers should become. Of course, Most of the activists are not doctors, and they come from social sciences if they're educated, because they are either even if they may be from the basic sciences. So we are from the medicine, so we talk about how we become social. If you are from law, you have to become how you become a human rights lawyer, or you become social lawyer, who can help people who are suffering, and to get justice and that kind of thing. Although all of us know that, and I think Dr. Vasudevan made it very clear that we don't get help from the hospital, right? You can get cure for certain disease, but not the help. And same way, you can go to the courts and you may get some reprieve here and there, but you don't get real justice from the courts. So these are the two institutions. I practice in both as a student in the hospital and as a trade unionist in the courts, and I found that both of them, what they proclaim to do, were not able to do it. So this it's a challenge. It's not easy thing to look at. So yes, everybody has to take up the social cause, and that's how we said, at least our journal, we are trying to make it multidisciplinary. We are also trying to get social scientists, philosophers, and all to come and reflect on health issues and try to create a better framework than the principalism is there. So hope I think there are many few more comments are there. You want me to? Trust in fiduciary relation. Yeah, these are all. I think most of them I have covered. I think there are students who are saying that they are not on to understand the influence of industries and commerce on the practice. I don't know. Nowadays, students in the medical colleges are exposed to industry much earlier than my time. In 1970s, when I studied medicine, only when I became intern. I was internship, that I discovered what is a medical representative and what they do when they come and talk to the doctor. Earlier, I did not know. I never had any interaction with any medical representative that I know. But I'm now told that as soon as the clinical duties start in second MBBS, now the medical students keep interacting with the pharmaceutical company. But I may be wrong. I have no idea. I have not looked at it. But perhaps I think their influence goes much deeper. And I hope whoever has written that, they will try to question it and see what is this impact, whether it is really providing you right kind of science, or it is trying to brainwash you to the marketing strategy of the company, which comes and interact with you and give you small gifts as students, which all of us like. I remember when I was an intern, in spite of being close to MFC, I had not joined it, and I was a political activist. But still, I used to say, "Oh my God, the company people coming and giving you so much of bow," so you feel suddenly that you are a real doctor now. But that was a short-lived, enthusiasm, and then you realize that this was having a very pernicious and wrong impact on you. So yes, as a medical student, you will have to look at that part. Anyway, there are so many others.
Yeah, this is never ending. We need to wind up at some point.
Yeah, I'll become breathless if I answer everything.
Yeah.
But it's a good part is that there are so many questions are raised, and hopefully you will keep raising them. Please make a copy of all these questions, and perhaps we can circulate. And I would like to read them. I have not read all of them.
Yeah, we are recording. We are recording, so it will be available.
So just chat. You just copy chat and circulate it. Thank you very much. I think it is already 9:19. We are past 20 minutes our allotted time. So thank you very much.
Good discussion, Amar. It was really good.
Thank you.
Actually.
Okay, so let us wind up the session. Any concluding remarks?
Amar, hope to meet you in Kozhikode.
Of course, I'll be there. I haven't seen Calicut for 15 years now.
Yeah, long time. quite long.
I want to have your halwa and I want to have your
Yeah.
In between, we have many other sessions, weekly sessions. There also we'll meet Iqbal sir.
And there's a big group there. Calicut group inspired us in Bombay quite a lot in 1980. So it's an area where we learn from. Yeah, I'll be there definitely. Okay. See you. Bye bye.
Okay, then. Good night. Good
Okay.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Suresh, next weekly program next weekly.
Next Thursday. Okay.
yeah.
One announce here. Like we'll send the email.
Next Thursday, same time, 7:30 to 9, we have the program on universal health coverage through primary health care. That's Yogesh Jain is presenting, and we'll meet at 7:30 next Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.